I'm Obscure Girl. I like movies. I like weird movies. I like weird, trippy, obscure movies that I feel like no one has seen or is talking about. Whether that be because they're just old, because the marketing was bad, or because you're like, I think that was a fever dream I had when I was 5. I'm here to tell you, it wasn't. Let's talk about it. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite sick or 4 a.m. movies. That's kind of the theme of this month a little bit when we're not talking about award season. And today we are going to be talking about the 2009 indie British movie, Malice in Wonderland. I found this movie one day. I was homesick from work and just like kind of perusing through Netflix and everything. And this looked interesting. And then I wasn't sure I had actually seen the movie. I thought maybe it was just the NyQuil until I watched it again and was like, no, that's what happened. Okay, cool. Non-spoiler premise, this is the story about a girl named Alice who is on the run from someone and ends up getting hit by a cab and losing her memory. And then that cab driver, who seems to be perpetually running late for things, ends up taking her to the more seedy side of London, where he is trying to get everything ready for the coming out party of notorious crime boss Harry Hunt, who is setting up a huge job, and whoever brings him the best present ends up getting in on the job with him. And Alice trying to remember just who she is and why she was running in the first place throughout this whole time. There are so many Alice in Wonderland parallels that are pretty obvious throughout the whole thing, but it's more of like a seedy underground retelling as opposed to a high fantasy retelling. That's the non-spoiler premise. Going forward, I'm going to start getting into spoilers. I'm going to tell you the whole story. So if you don't want to have things spoiled, please go check out the movie, come back, we'll discuss. If you're like me and you're like, all right, I just like knowing what I'm getting into so I know whether or not it's going to be a waste of my time. Also realizing that spoiler stories like this don't show you how these things are happening. They're not giving the cinematography, the acting performances. You're not getting the movie, you're just getting the bullet points and the ending. So, if you're like me and you want full spoilers ahead, starting now. So, as previously stated, the movie starts out with this blonde girl running through the streets of London with 2 goons chasing her. She ends up running into a subway station where an unhoused lady, known for the rest of the movie as the bag lady, she asks her for directions, and the bag lady, is just like, oh, I know someone who used to live on that street. You'll get it back, by the way. And she goes, get what back? The time. So really kind of just like, all right, already a trippy start. This is a very trippy movie. It's an Alice in Wonderland retelling. You're going to come out of it a little, where is my mind? So then she ends up running away from these goons still, runs into the street, and ends up getting hit by a cab and knocking herself out on the pavement. The cab driver, named Whitey, who has 2 watches, one on each wrist, has a white rabbit's foot in his, rearview mirror, and is constantly talking about how late he is. So 3 guesses who he's supposed to be. A couple people saw that he had hit her, and they're like, I saw that. And he's like, no, she's just drunk, it's fine. And he loads her into the car because he doesn't want to catch a case. He doesn't have time. So the girl is kind of in and out of consciousness as they drive down this rabbit hole of a tunnel and come out into the land that time forgot, as Whitey calls it. And quickly discover that this girl does not remember who she is. She doesn't know what her name is. She doesn't know why she was running. She doesn't know what she was looking for. Full amnesia. So Whitey ends up going through this thing of pills for your breath, for your nerves, and gives her a bottle of for your head. He goes, it's gonna knock you out, but you're gonna end up coming back sharp as shit. His words, not mine. Before taking the pills, Whitey starts giving Alice a little bit of exposition, saying that he is running late to pick up a present because Harry Hunt, the crime boss, and the local head of the Hearts gang, basically, is out of jail. He's also come out while in jail. So this is literally his coming out in dual sense party. and that he needs to find the perfect present so he can get in on this new job that Harry has that's going to make everyone millions of dollars, and everyone wants to be getting the best present. But Whitey is running late to pick up his present, a pure uncut tie. And everyone's like, who's getting a mob boss a tie? We'll get there. It's great. And he says that he will take the girl home as soon as he is done getting this present and dropping it off at the party, because he cannot be late for this. This is too important. But he promises he will bring her back home safely when his business is done. So the girl ends up popping one of these for your head pills, ends up kind of passing out a little bit, having some flashbacks of talking to a private investigator about something, and then wakes up and Whitey is not in the car anymore, but someone else is, and that someone else is robbing them and getting Whitey's money, going through her purse, going through all the meds and everything. So then the girl, who, her name's Alice. Like, we all know her name is Alice, right? I'm gonna stop calling her the girl. Her name's Alice. She just doesn't know that yet. So Alice ends up chasing this guy because he's got her purse and doesn't know what else to do. And she's clearly not in the jolly streets of London anymore, at least not the London that she's been used to. There is an abandoned carnival where you meet Gonzo, who is like a low caliber, like, boss kind of thing. And he basically has a little army of pickpockets. He's kind of like a bit of a Fagin from Oliver Twist kind of thing. Like, he runs the pickpockets on the street, but he's nowhere near like crime boss level. So the guy that ended up taking Alice's purse ends up taking it to Gonzo, and Gonzo immediately thinks that Alice is some kind of a spy, trying to find out what he got for Harry for the party, and then thinks that she's just working for Whitey. Meanwhile, our poor boy Whitey is not having the best night because the boat is taking off and he has no idea where his goods are. The guys are just taking off, said they dropped it off already, and don't tell Whitey where his present is. And Whitey's just kind of like, okay, I don't know where my stuff is. I'm so screwed. Also, where did that girl go? So back with Gonzo, he's telling his lackeys like, oh, you lost your memory? Well, you guys better go find it, and sends his lackeys off. He's clearly supposed to be Dodo. This is the caucus race scene. There's, spinning carousel and crazy lights, and you're just feeling just as disoriented as Alice is. Honestly, the trippy cinematography really adds to this story, and it's really fun, especially if it's 4 a.m. or if you're not feeling good, because then you're just along for the ride. But before Gonzo can end up interrogating her too harshly, Whitey shows up, punches him out, comes and saves Alice, and takes her with him. We get a little bit more exposition about Harry Hunt, how he had taken out the other gangs, the spades, the diamonds, the clubs, and the only one that he had left from the spades was the DJ. Very kind of mysterious talking about it. He's like, oh, but Harry does love his music, Liberace, blah, blah, blah. She's like, he sounds fascinating. Heard Harry called a lot of F words. That's not one of them. I just like that line. Anyway. So now Whitey needs to think of a new present to get for Harry, and Alice suggests, why don't you get him a cake? And he's like, who gets a mob boss a cake? Someone that cares? It's like, I can make this work. Meanwhile, there is some mad sexual tension going between Whitey and Alice. Like, there are, they're looking at each other. There's like shooting stars going off. It is palpable. The chemistry between these two actors, which by the way is Danny Dyer and Maggie Grace. Really, really palpable tension between these two. But we digress. But Whitey tends to consider himself at least a somewhat decent guy and doesn't want to take advantage of her. So he ends up dropping her off at a bus stop with some money and saying, like, this will take you back to London. I don't know when it's coming, but best of luck to you. So ends up leaving her there. There is no bus coming. Like, in Whitey's defense, he doesn't know that, but this bus is nowhere near coming. So Alice ends up finding a phone booth, tries to call the police. That doesn't go well at all because she sounds super high because she has no memory of who she is and she's still groggy from the concussion. So she ends up just giving up on that whole premise and ends up popping another one of these pills because that seems to be the only thing flashing some memories for her. And she ends up remembering a little bit more, private investigator, talking to her dad, finds out that those goons actually were working for her dad, and she had like given her dad some paperwork and confronted him about something. And that's why she ended up running away. And as this is happening, she's listening to DJ Chester, which is going to be someone that we meet later. But just very smooth late night radio sounding DJ. So Whitey ends up going to this random security camera and is immediately trying to get its attention. And it's the Duchess. So like from the original Alice in Wonderland story, there's the Duchess, who is someone kind of high up, but who doesn't want to face the Queen because the Queen wants her dead. And in this, yes, Harry Hunt is definitely the Queen of Hearts. Harry, yeah, okay, cool. And the Duchess is all like, oh yeah, no, I have your tie. Very, very nice. This will easily be the best present. I want halvesies in on this. And he was just like, you know, get him a cake. And she goes, who gets a mob boss a cake? He goes, someone that cares. She's like, we'll get him the tie and the cake, but we're going halvesies. Also, the Duchess has security cameras all over the city. Like, every security camera belongs to her. She has eyes literally everywhere. Also very important, the Duchess is played by Pam Ferris. Trunchbull, the original Trunchbull from Matilda. You would not guess this if you were just looking at her. You're like, I know her, but how? It's Trunchbull. And it's a complete 180. I'm not saying that she's, you know, like some superstar model or anything, but I am saying she looks fabulous and not horrifying. So if you do watch this, it's Trunchbull. Crazy to see her in anything else, honestly. So then Whitey ends up going to some kind of like gas station or something. I don't know, he's picking up whatever. And he sees the TV above the register is this billionaire is saying that his daughter, Alice Dodgson, is lost, and he is offering a $10 million reward to anyone with information that can help find her. So Whitey's immediately like, oh my god, 10 million, and ends up taking off to go back and find Alice. Except at this point, Alice ends up getting picked up by a Rastafarian white guy with like dreads and grills who only speaks in rhyme and is hotboxing, to say the least, in this car. It's the Caterpillar. He says his name is the Caterpillar. And he's a big old like drug boy and everything. And the cops are, I guess, on their way to find Alice, but they say that she can't trust the police in this area and kind of pull her into the car and are trying to help her figure out where she needs to go because she cannot trust police around here. So she's like, I need to find my ride. He was trying to get to the party. And Caterpillar goes, you can't get to the party without an invite. Also, as this is going, he's talking in rhyme the whole time. And then Alice ends up starting to talk in rhyme as well because of just the contact. And he goes, I know exactly where you can get an invitation because you're not getting in within one. And he drops her off at the Duchess's place. So Alice goes in to meet the Duchess, and the Duchess says, yes, you can totally have my invite if you give me information. And Alice is like, I don't have a memory of who I am. I don't have any information. But that seems to be kind of what the Duchess's thing is. Like, she deals in secrets and information, hence all the cameras all over the city. So she has Alice have a brain scan right there, like in her office, which is kind of hilarious. There's just like a helmet with all these wires already waiting for her. And so really quick, the Duchess is giving her a whole brain scan while also monitoring that Whitey is like at the bus stop looking for Alice. And he's like, okay, yeah, you have something with your brain. Like, you have amnesia. There's, you know, damage to the blah, blah lobe. And that you are now like, yeah, that makes sense. Are you taking anything? Like, what are you doing for this? And she's like, I'm taking from your head. She's like, okay, good. Yep, just keep doing that. You'll be fine. Here's the invite. But during the scan, Alice does remember that she was looking for her mom when she was running away. This was like one little breakthrough that happened without a pill. She was looking for her mom. So the Duchess says, yep, here's your invite. Follow the red lights. So as soon as Alice leaves the mansion, she sees a street lined with red lights. and starts following that, and then sees a guy who looks remarkably like the guy that was robbing her earlier in the car, holding a red light bulb, and she ends up chasing him through this garden hedge maze, which is just so Alice in Wonderland and awesome that it's just nonchalantly happening in a grown-up non-fantasy movie. Just, why aren't there more hedge mazes in the world? I want one in my backyard. Like, I want a hedge maze, a moon door, and a fountain I can read next to. Why is that so much to ask for? But when she gets out of the maze, she ends up losing the guy and is standing in front of a billboard of DJ Felix Chester with a big old smile on his face and some smooth jazz sunglasses. And of course, the billboard starts talking to her, because this is our Cheshire Cat and is one of my favorite characters in the movie, even though he's not even there that long. But he tells her, we are all moving in circles.
Circles, circles. We all move in circles.
Like circles, circles, we all move in circles. She goes, is that some kind of a riddle? He goes, what has no conditions but one condition? And she's like, he goes, that's a riddle. She goes, is that my riddle? He said, it's my riddle. It's your answer.
It's your answer.
And with that, she looks up and there's more red lights, and she ends up following the red lights to a truck stop diner, where she runs into the guy that she was looking for in the first place, Uff, unfrickin' forgettable, and says he's the brother of the guy that was robbing her earlier. So she ends up just like, I'm so done with this, takes another pill, falls asleep at the table, and has some flashbacks of her mom trying to force her into some kind of arranged marriage with some other rich boy. She wakes up and is in a new dress with a completely new hairstyle with like red highlights, and it's all crimped and like wild, and she's got fishnet sleeves on. And Hattie, who is, oh my god, I love it so much. Hattie is a madam of a mobile brothel or a tart park. And she has said, yeah, like a hairstyle like that doesn't come for free. You got to work it off. And has basically claimed her as one of her tarts. I love it. It's so funny. And there's all these trucker guys that are just waiting for their turn in the back of this giant semi that is full of girls and has, like, at the back of it, a bedroom, which is playing a Ron Jeremy film, by the way. If you know, you know. But this guy ends up taking her back there and is trying to, and then she ends up crashing that TV onto his head and takes the truck and ends up like taking off with this truck full of girls in the backseat with the guy that is slowly coming to after having his head crashed in with the TV. And the guy is trying to like climb around the side of the bus to end up trying to like get in. And thank God at that very moment, this is when Whitey finds her, pulls up alongside the truck, and tells her to jump in. There's this whole high-speed chase and everything. It's kind of hilarious that it's so random, and it's so... Yeah, no, this is a modern-day Alice in Wonderland without the fantasy element. It makes perfect sense in making no sense whatsoever, and I love it. But they quickly hear on the radio that the police think that Whitey actually kidnapped her because the people that saw him hit her in the first place identified him and like gave a sketch and everything. And so now he takes Alice to a motel room so he can think, because he's trying to get the ransom and all of that jazz, but he's also trying to not end up in jail in the meantime. And he still has to get this present to Harry in time. Also, Whitey lets her know, like, hey, by the way, this is your name, and your dad's looking for you and is willing to pay $10 million for you. Just so you know, Alice. And sitting at this motel and everything, and again, the tension between the two of them it's strong. And she's one of the ones that's trying to go for it, like, even more than he is, and he's trying to be like, we don't have time for this. And she tells him that he is a slave to time, and that his 2 watches are his shackles. So then he takes one off and gives it to her and says, then if these are my shackles, we are shackled together. I'm going to go and grab something. I'll be back. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, wait another 10 minutes. So he ends up leaving to go get something, but then ends up getting knocked out by Gonzo. And Alice takes another pill because she thinks she's safe in this room and everything, and ends up remembering even more. She remembers a little bit more about confronting her dad, but then wakes up in Gonzo's car on the way to Harry Hunt's party, because Gonzo plans that his present is going to be splitting Alice's $10 million reward with Harry. So they end up getting to this party where these two twin bouncers that are definitely no similarity to Tweedledee and Tweedledum whatsoever. There's some choice phrases in this scene because they are kicking out anyone who is of the alternative crowd, as they call it, and definitely have some homophobic sayings that, you know, as a queer girl, I found some of them pretty funny, actually, but they're definitely not good. They're not good. But all these people are trying to get into the party because, of course, it's supposed to be the party of the century. And they're kicking him out left and right until Rex, who is the right hand of Harry, ends up being like, yeah, there seems to be some mix up in the directions. No fault on you guys. Let the alternative crowd in. And they're like, seriously? Yeah, Harry's orders. So then everyone gets to come join the party. Yay, happy, we're all having fun. Inside is a Baz Luhrmann wet dream. It is all red lighting and circus performers and a rave and just so much energy and crazy camera angles, and it's super, super fun looking. I'd go to this party. Meanwhile, Whitey once again finds a camera so he can talk to the Duchess, has her set up the presents to where he can get them, and she tells him where Alice is, and so he's ready to take the presents to the party and try and get Alice out of there alive. Because he knows that Harry, anything goes. He's not a sane individual. And we finally get to meet Harry Hunt himself, the Queen of Hearts, who is absolutely fabulous and batshit crazy, played by Nathaniel Parker. He played Gracie in the Eddie Murphy version of Haunted Mansion. So not that sweet, nostalgic, whimsical folk. He's definitely absolutely insane and is a credit to anyone who has ever performed the Queen of Hearts. Just sweet 1 second, murderous the next second, laughing, shooting, absolutely fantastic, and I love it so much. There's also a amazing drag queen that sits by him, Jack, like Jack of Hearts. Yeah, like the name, you know. But you know, it's Jackie or Jacqueline for posh. I'm like, all right, we're friends. I love you. So Alice ends up meeting Harry, and he's treating her like the guest of honor, and basically tells her, like, here's the plan. We're gonna call your dad and up the ante to about 20 mil, I think. He pays, you go home safely, everything's good. She's like, okay, but what if he can't pay, or what if I don't want to go home? And he goes, then Rex comes out of retirement, because his full name was Rex the Executioner. Like, all right, okay. And it's cool because it's like this older guy that just seems very like he does the business end, but then you find out he does the business end. So that was kind of cool. And he's like just casually carrying an axe like at all times too. It's great. I love it. Also, Harry is completely ready to just cut Gonzo out of this deal and completely screw him over because he can. So Whitey shows up with a giant birthday cake with a tie filling. Yes. Let's just say another tart is present. And if you know anything about tarts from Thailand, you know it's something that the recently coming out Queen of Hearts would be very fond of. Yeah, so like Whitey is totally winning this. So Gonzo's kind of panicking and is trying to get Whitey killed for not turning Alice over to Harry, because of course, why wouldn't you do that? But meanwhile, Whitey, who is way too smart for Gonzo, is telling Harry that, yeah, old Father William knows that Alice is in town. I was trying to make sure all of this happened off of old Bill's turf, but now he knows that Alice is here, and you have a mark on you because this guy is a liability, and let him know that this is going down on his turf. So Harry's like, I just got out of jail and you're trying to get me killed, and kills Gonzo on the spot. Also, we never mention old Father William again the rest of the movie. That was just the one scene, and it's gone because this is This is Alice in Wonderland. I can only say it so many times, guys. Like, making sense is not the point. Meanwhile, Alice is down at the bar because she's like, just in case this is my last night, I think I should have a drink. And ends up taking a pill right there at the bar, full of a crowd of criminal people. And passes out right at the bar, surrounded by criminals, because smart. I don't know. But this is when Alice is starting to get the final pieces of her puzzle put into place. Because the private detective let her know she was adopted. Those aren't her real parents. And her real bio mom is still in London. So she was running away to try and find her bio mom and had confronted her dad with it. And her dad just tried to restrain her, basically. So that's what the whole thing was about before she ended up losing her memory. Wakes up and is once again just like sitting by some random guy. Luckily, she's fine, because in every other situation where she takes the pills, she ends up not fine. But in this situation where she should absolutely not be okay, she's fine. Wakes up where she went to sleep, it's okay. But at this point, Harry is ready to dispose of Alice because he thinks that she's, the goods are hot and he's going to end up getting busted for having her. And Whitey's trying to talk him out of it. He's trying to be a little smart. And this is one of those times when Harry's just like being nice to him and then is just like, don't get smart with me. I'm the main boss here. And just at that moment, Hattie shows up and is like fuming. Hattie is absolutely fuming. She's smacking up everyone that's at this card table of the heavy hitters. And, Harry's even just like, Hattie, darling, tone. And she's like, I pay good money for protection, and this girl stole my tarts. Whoever wrote this and was able to make that connection and make it work so well in parallel with the original storyline, I owe you a drink, because that was hilarious. So then Harry's just like, we'll have a trial. Whitey's going to be the defense lawyer and Rex is going to be the prosecution. By the way, the defense doesn't get to speak during the trial. So Harry ends up kicking everyone out of the party in order to have this trial. Whitey quickly gets kicked out because, he talked to try and explain things to Alice. And Alice is trying to plead diminished capacity because she has amnesia. Like, she didn't know what she was doing. She's been on pills all night. And my favorite line in the whole movie is when Harry goes, insanity isn't a plea, it's a way of life. If I could get that tattooed somewhere or just painted on the walls, I don't know, but I want it. It's beautiful. Thank you. I agree. But Alice calls Felix Chester as a witness for her, who then asks, can I have a moment to speak with my girl? And I love it. And he goes, time. All of this has been about time and how everything would have been different if you had those 15 seconds that you spent talking to the bag lady. You would never have been running. You never would have been hit by the car, and none of this would have happened. I can give you that 15 seconds back. You just have to tell me when. And ends up disappearing again in full Cheshire Cat-esque quality. So Alice is quickly sentenced to death after that point and screams, when? And ends up taking off out of the party. She ends up finding Whitey and tries to pull him along. Those 15 seconds are up, and Harry and them catch up to them kind of as they're running away, and Harry shoots and kills Whitey. So Alice is just like, I'm going to get you back. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. And she ends up running back and ends up in the same subway station, coming out of a different door that was previously locked when she tried to get through at the beginning of the movie, and runs back into the bag lady. And she goes, I told you you'd get it back. And Alice is like, do you know about this? She's like, I know some things. As you see Alice's former self when she was still, put together in businessman's daughter attire. And she ends up fading, and now this is the only Alice in this time and place in reality. And she quickly runs out to the street to stop Whitey's cab, which this time she does it without getting hit. And she ends up pulling him out of the car, gives him a big old kiss that's like, all right. And quickly tells him in the most crazy fashion possible. She ends up telling him this situation, saying that I was there from the future. I know that you are going to go be late for a pickup for a tie present for Harry Hunt, you're going to end up dead. Or my dad is offering a $10 million reward. You can end up splitting the reward and getting me in the process, and we can live happily ever after together. And Whitey's not wanting to believe her at all until he sees that she's wearing his other watch. And that is enough for him to believe her, plus also checking her out, and the instant attraction's already still there. So she jumps into the back of the cab and then turns into the same attire she was supposed to be in from the beginning. And a couple days go by and she decides she wants to meet her bio mom. So she ends up going with Whitey to this house that was her mom's last listed address. The lady that lives there used to be besties with her bio mom, and basically tells her her parents bought her. Like, her mom was in a really bad place. They didn't know who her dad was, and she didn't have it in her to take care of her. So she ended up selling her baby to her parents completely under the table. And she's like, that happens in England, in America. And Whitey's like, that happens all over, and it's a buyer's market. So she goes, do you at least see my mom? And the lady that lives there goes, actually, I see her every day. So Whitey takes her to meet her bio mom, the bag lady. And it's so sweet. She just goes up to her and she's like, I knew I'd see you again. She's like, do you know who I am? No. Like I said, I know some things, but not everything. Wouldn't that be great? And she goes, do you know this? What has no conditions but one condition? And the bag lady says, now that takes me back. She was the sweetest thing, but I wasn't. And I still think about her every day. What has no conditions but one condition? Love. She goes, what's your name? And she goes, Alice. And she goes, my girl's name was... And Alice offers her, like, what do you say to a hotel room, a hot shower, a warm king-size bed? And she goes, nah, I got everything I need right here. And that's how we end the movie, on this super sappy, super like, oh my god moment. But yes, I'm a sap and I fall for it every time. Also coming out of it feeling like I just downed half a bottle of NyQuil, but I digress. That was Malice in Wonderland. And I love this movie. The cinematography is fantastic. It makes you feel so trippy. You can clearly tell as many parallels to Alice in Wonderland if you are a fan of the original story in any capacity. It's really funny how they twist things and how they retell the story. Is it an Oscar-winning movie? Absolutely not. But is it something you can chill and relax to if you can't sleep or if you're sick? Or even if you're just down for something trippy? Absolutely. I highly recommend this movie if you are into that kind of scene. And yeah, if you liked this video, please like this video. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. That would be a huge help. Check me out on Patreon so I can up the video quality of these. That would be absolutely fantastic. There's some movies that I'm kind of holding out on performing until I have the proper setup to do them justice. So that would kind of come down to your help. Also, share out this video if you're like, oh, did you see this movie? Or, oh my god, we should totally watch this. That would be really great. I would really appreciate it. I've been Obscure Girl, and the rest is confetti.